Anderson. Mrs. Bettinghouse? Here. Ms. Miller?
Here. Oh, shoot.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Here.
Let the record show
Sorry,
that,
guys.
let the record show that all 7 members are present. At this time, do I have a motion to approve the written minutes of the June 25th council meeting?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to approve the written minutes of the June 25th council meeting.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, seconded by Ms. Hausfeld to approve the written minutes of the June 25th council meeting. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. At this time, we'll move to reports of administrative officials. Mayor, Mr. Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start by thanking Lauren Clements, Regine Johnson, Seja Woods, and Jake Armentrout for organizing Line the Vine, a peaceful rally because Black Lives Do Matter, that was held this Tuesday. This was indeed a peaceful event, which I'm glad that I attended, and I appreciated all the respectful participation. As y'all have probably seen on the news report of a young lady that was fatally struck while walking along I-75 in the early hours of June 27th. This was painful video that I watched shortly after I was contacted by Lieutenant Matheson, who informed me that there was a pedestrian killed in a hit and run. I can't imagine what this family from Tennessee is going through, but I can assure you that our police department, in cooperation with the Cincinnati Police Department, is doing everything possible to review the video with the hopes that they will be able to identify the driver who continued on while Megan Smith, who had just turned 23 years of age hours before, laid along the side of the road. I could not believe what I saw and the amount of time that had passed from her getting hit and not a single person stopping to a final call that there was a report that was what was thought to be a body on the side of the road. I am praying for this family that they will get answers, and I want to thank our police department for their hard work in this case, and I know that it's been difficult for them. Yesterday evening, of course, Governor DeWine's mask requirement went into effect for 7 counties: Hamilton, Butler, Montgomery, Franklin, Huron, Cuyahoga, and Trumbull. You are required to wear a mask while you're inside a business, municipal structure, while utilizing public transportation, or while outside where you're not able to maintain a 6-foot distance from others. This requirement will stay in effect until we drop below the red level 3, but unfortunately, we are running closer to the purple alert level 4. The enforcement portion of this is currently being reviewed by the Hamilton County Health Department, but I am asking for everyone's cooperation. Currently, St. Bernard has had 25 confirmed cases with 1 death, which is increased from the previous 12 from the last council meeting. Lastly, I hope I'm not repeating something that, of course, Ms. Miller is going to report, but lastly, the German Luau Committee met this week, and it was decided that we must forego this year's event due to the current situation with COVID-19. We hope to come back bigger and better next year, but we will still have merchandise available for the year that the luau didn't happen. Our package offer will include a bucket and t-shirt that will be made available shortly for pre-order once the artwork is done. And I will give you a little hint. Our little German man may be wearing a mask. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Auditor, Ms. Brickway.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Auditor's Office provided the end of June 2020 revenue, expense, and cash fund spreadsheets to Council and the Administration. At the end of June, the revenues are up $243,366.48, and the expenses are down $404,647.03 compared to last year. The Auditor's Office also prepared Resolution 7/2020. This resolution is required to be passed by Council before Hamilton County can distribute funds from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act to St. Bernard. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Mr.
Does
President,
everyone have that resolution? I didn't have one of mine.
make a motion to put Resolution 7/2020 on the table, next council meeting.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Taberkey, second by Ms. Bettinghouse to put resolution number 7 on the table. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. All right. Thank you. Law Director.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yesterday, I met with members of the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee and of the public to continue discussions of a non-discrimination ordinance. A number of concepts were discussed, and we're going to meet again in approximately 3 weeks after we've all had a chance to kind of think about the things we discussed last evening, and after I've had a chance to review the Supreme Court decisions that came out, some of the Supreme Court decisions that came out yesterday. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Treasurer, Mr. Ungar.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have the statement from First State Bank for the 4th of July Memorial Fund that we have with them. At the end of July, the balance in our accounts, $5,654.39. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 13, I would like to be placed on the table. It's an easement for Duke on 4200 Vine Street. They need gas line to go out to East Mitchell Avenue, and this is the easiest route as it's in grass and dirt. We have multiple basin collapses and sinkholes throughout the village. Scenic and Greenlee, 109 Church Street, which, by the way, someone took a saw to the curb next to the basin and did not report it. Sinkholes at McClellan Avenue, and it's not MSD's, even though it's right next to a sewer lid. And I am waiting for the results on Spring Grove Avenue by Smuckers. As of today, all the piping is good repair when looking at the camera results, so we do not know yet why the road down there is collapsing. I'll keep you posted. You have a notice that you may have noticed that McClellan Avenue project is almost complete. I have ordered that the road remain closed over the weekend due to the extreme heat. It needs more time to set up. Tower will be open, but McClellan will be closed. Our 5 MP9 streets and sewers may need some help in the near future because of all this, so I'll keep you posted on that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke.
make a motion for ordinance 13, 2020 on the table.
A motion by Mr. DeBerke, second by Ms. Housefeld, to put ordinance number 13, 2020 on the table. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Thank you. Tax Commissioner / Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few items for council tonight. I'll start with the monthly report for June 2020. Tax collections for June were $677,591. Tax refunds for June were $13,352.50. The village is down 5.55% from June of 2019. Due to the 715 extension, only 40% of taxpayers have filed their 2019 return. The total for 2020 year-to-date collections are $4,652,192. The village is actually up 9.5% from 2019. I have an ordinance to be placed on the table, ordinance number 12 of 2020, language revision to Chapter 182, the tax code. There's a multiple language changes that need to be updated, clarified, and adopted into our municipal tax code. So we are in compliance with the state of Ohio and aligned with other Ohio municipalities. Number 3, we have 2 recent vacancies on the Tax Review Board. Mr. Scott Weber and Mr. Daniel Lee have both expressed interest in serving on the board. Mr. Joe Kempe contacted me and will be continuing his role on the board. So we may have the 3 members that we need. I submitted the code section with the rules to the tax of the tax board to everyone's email. Let me know if you have any questions. Upon final commitment and appointment, all 3 members will need to be sworn in. And then finally, I have another ordinance to be placed on the table, ordinance number 11 of 2020. I am coming to council tonight to request funding to line item 2E6 for judgment work for the village. This is the next step to take when there is no compliance with the collection agency. This line item would pay for attorney services and court costs in the pursuit of judgments, liens, and garnishments for unpaid municipal income tax. Our current outstanding tax obligations are $205,803. Of that amount, only $30,719 is currently being paid upon with our collection agency. The St. Bernard Tax Code Section 182.10G allows for the municipality to impose on the taxpayer the post-judgment collection costs and fees, including some attorney fees. The attorney will pursue the garnishment and liens once the judgment's been made. His cost is 20% of the recovered amounts. Also, I'd like to thank Valerie, Peggy, and Heidi for all their assistance with me this month. That concludes my report.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. DeBerke?
First question for Peggy. Ordinance, excuse me, ordinance 11 for the additional appropriation of $20,000. Don't we have to establish that line item first? 012E6 tax collection?
It's in there. You might not see it on your budget because we're not using it right now, but that is an established line item.
Okay, I just looked at the budget, it wasn't there, so it was,
Yeah, right.
okay, make a motion for an ordinance 11 and 12 on the table.
Second, Dick.
Motion by Mr. DeBerke, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson to put ordinances number 11 and 12, 2020 on the table. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Anything else, Ms. Helm?
No,
Good.
that was it.
Thank you. This time we'll move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. DeBerke.
No report.
Thank you. Safety, Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. I would like to thank Ms. Bettinghouse, Ms. Miller, Mayor Stuchel, Safety Service Director, Mr. Paul, Police Chief Simos, and all the residents that attended last night's Safety Committee meeting. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the traffic/speeding concerns on Ross Avenue between Gorman Avenue and Chalet Drive. Several options were discussed. At this time, we're going to make the lane closest to the cemetery a parking-only lane to eliminate passing. There will also be increased radar patrol and possibly a speed trailer. This is, again, we're going to do this on a trial basis to see how this handles the situation up there. I've also got the police report for June. There were 45 parking complaints, 5 vehicle tamperings, 1 stolen vehicle, 23 traffic warnings, 9 traffic violations, 2 curfew violations, 1 DUI arrest, and 19 calls for suspicious vehicles or people. And then lastly, I got a mayor's court update. In June, the village collected $7,139, which brings the year-to-date total to $37,544.48. And that includes my report.
I can't stand this thing. Can I just ask a quick question to make sure I heard you right? There's going to be a parking lane on the cemetery side, so we're going to make, and we're eliminating the parking in front of their houses? Or is parking both ways? Okay,
Just the cemetery side will be parking only
Okay.
instead of 2 lanes of traffic
okay. Just wanted to
going
make,
down the hill.
just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that there was no confusion.
Mr.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
President, can I ask a question?
Ms. Brickwick.
I'm sure, is there going to be a point down towards Chalet that is going to be no parking so we can turn into our street?
What, I guess I
If you're going to make parking on the whole side of the cemetery, will there be a little bit in the, at the very end where it's no parking so we can get over? Maybe just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of that is to prevent any passage on the curbside.
Right, I assumed you were going to do it, but I think if like somebody parked at that very end, it might be really hard to turn into the subdivision. Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, with all the trucks, you'd never be able to put parking down there, and nobody'd be able to get out of Kiley Place. Okay. Service, Mr. Schultmar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report for the Service Department for June 2020, we placed 40 trucks at residences, 35 dumpsters are placed at residences, 419 special pickups at residences, 217 tons of garbage taken to the landfill. As far as recycling, we had 34.4 tons of recycling material, 146 pounds of scrap aluminum, 84 pounds of brass, 1 pound of copper, and 7,750 pounds of scrap metal. The only other thing I wanted to add is obviously the numbers have been higher for the service department while through COVID a lot of people were off and working on their homes. So we'll just ask all the citizens to have a little bit of patience if it takes a little bit longer to get a dumpster for you or a truck for you or to pick something up. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Public Improvements, Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next CIC meeting is coming up Tuesday at 6 p.m. in the lower level. I'm also looking into a project that was brought to my attention of putting banners at different light posts that represent all the people that have served in the armed services that lived in the village of St. Bernard. So I'm going to get some costs. And they gave me some villages out on the east side that have done that. So I will be looking in to see what that cost is and then trying to work with the mayor in administration to kind of get a list of everybody that we know and served, and then look into that in the future. That concludes my report.
Mr. President?
Thank you. Mr. DeBerke?
Tommy, in the past, we looked at that and we weren't allowed to put anything on those new poles. Has that changed?
Mr. President,
Mr. Paul?
that's on Vine Street. Vine Street poles aren't ours, so we're not allowed to hang anything on them. I guess,
So you might want to think about, Bobby, you can't put the banners on Vine Street.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Ms. Bettinghouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee met last evening, July 8th, to discuss the anti-discrimination ordinance. The content part of the ordinance has one section that will be reviewed by the law director, and she will bring back her recommendation. The other part of the ordinance that the committee will focus on at the next meeting will be the creation of the Human Rights Commission, the membership and their roles and responsibilities, as well as consequences for violation of the ordinance. The next meeting will be Tuesday, July 28th at 6 p.m. in Centennial Hall. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Marketing, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a friendly reminder that tomorrow is the Say Soccer sign-up deadline. Please sign up at City Hall between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Also, there is another order going in for Frank Robinson Field Memorial bricks. You can purchase bricks at City Hall anytime, Monday through Friday, between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. for $100 a brick. Also, the virtual Fresh Market was a huge success. They will be hosting another virtual market at the end of the month. More information to come on that event. Lastly, the St. Bernard Ludlow Grove Historical Society is interested in the wonderful mail order Sears homes, which were built from 1908 to 1940. They are developing a program to explore this fascinating part of Americana, especially here in St. Bernard. If you have one of these treasures, or if you know of one, please contact them at historystbernard, all one word together, @gmail.com. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Business and industry, Ms. Housefeld.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Since there's no one in the audience, there will be no audience participation. I show one resolution and 3 ordinances then for the next council meeting. This time I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ray Culbertson.
make a motion, we adjourn. Anybody?
A motion by Mr. Ray Culbertson, second by Mr. Schultmeyer to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered.